The Electronic Entertainment Expo, otherwise known as E3, is an annual trade fair for the video game industry and is held at the Los Angeles Convention Center in either May or June of each year. This year, E3 is being held from the 10th to the 12th of June, with the majority of the big conferences taking place on Monday the 9th of June. This basically means that all the biggest video game publishers gather in Los Angeles for 3 days to show off their upcoming games and merchandise, so you can pretty much see what to put on your Christmas list for the year. The millions of fans that can't attend the show use this time to glue their eyes to their screens and watch conferences live online that for years have been filled with memorable moments, some exciting, some weird, and some downright cringeworthy.
Fist bump.
E3 has been used by different publishers to announce new video game consoles like a PlayStation 4 or a Nintendo Wii, and new video game accessories like an Xbox Kinect.
Bring it to life with your voice and movement? Yeah, sure. I shouldn't exist! I shouldn't exist!
They also use it to announce their upcoming games that they expect to be the biggest sellers of the year, because the people who attend E3 are not fans that just happen to walk in the door. The trade show itself is primarily for people who have some sort of profession related to the gaming industry, whether it's a member of the media looking to preview an upcoming release, a developer looking to see what different platforms can offer them, or even an advertiser looking for a way to reach some more customers. This is a publisher's chance to say, hey, we have this big game coming out, look how great it is, you should totally talk about this game on your website, or come to our company to publish your game, or get an advertising campaign going. Originally the show was attended mostly by print journalists, many from different gaming magazines. For a long time this was the best way to get your E3 information. Buy the magazine and watch the free DVD of E3 game trailers. However, in the last decade it has extended to websites and TV, and in recent years fans have been able to watch the different conferences live online. All of this combined makes this the biggest week of the year for video game fans, where they can see what to expect in the year to come. If this all sounds a bit too official, we should probably go through a few examples of these memorable moments I mentioned before. The first takes us back to the very first E3 show in 1995. Video game publisher Sega had a new console coming out later in the year called the Sega Saturn. You might recognise the Sega name from games such as Sonic the Hedgehog.
Wow. Sega Saturn.
Their big competitors that year were the one and only Sony, with their new video game console, the PlayStation. This was at a time when the Sega Mega Drive, otherwise known as the Sega Genesis, and Super Nintendo dominated the market. Sega were to take the stage before Sony, and during their conference it was announced that instead of being released in the fall, the Sega Saturn would be released the very next day. This surprised both retailers and game developers who were creating games for the console, because they were not informed of this decision beforehand. And it left the console, which costs $399, with more than 6 months of very few titles to actually play. Shortly afterwards, during their own keynote address, Sony Computer Entertainment of America President Steve Race took to the stage and had this to say.
$299.
The Sega Saturn never recovered, and I think we all know how well the PlayStation did. In 2004, 4 years after seeing some impressive graphics in a tech demo, fans of the Zelda series of video games still wanted a new game with a more realistic look. Just as that year's Nintendo conference came to an end, they got their wish. As the crowd cheered, Zelda creator Shigeru Miyamoto emerged on stage with a sword and shield to confirm that they would indeed be getting what they had wanted for so long. It just happened to take another 2 years. I could go on talking about the biggest crowd-pleasing moments, but we should probably talk about the fact it can also go horribly wrong. It's a lot like Eurovision in a way. You watch it and sometimes you're entertained, but sometimes you watch it just to see the train wrecks. In 2007, Activision hired Jamie Kennedy to host their presentation. You may know Jamie Kennedy as a comedian. Instead of a conference of humour and announcements, he seemed to be either drunk or hungover.
Video games, they've been, where are my jokes?
And spent the whole time making fun of the audience and getting heckled by both them and the speakers.
So I was wondering if I could just do the whole interview as Ozzy Osbourne.
Absolutely.
Alright.
Aren't you doing that already?
No. You guys are Americans. You're supposed to be with me. Okay? We're not. Who said that?
I've already mentioned how Sony were responsible for one of the biggest crowd-pleasing moments of E3 in their debut year, but in 2006 Sony were ready to announce their new PlayStation 3 and the world was watching. Instead of being blown away by amazing games and a great price like their debut year, viewers and attendees were instead greeted with talk of giant enemy crabs.
Being based on history, the stages of the game will also be based on famous battles which actually took place in ancient Japan. So here's this giant enemy crab, and you attack its weak point for massive damage.
And an inflated price tag.
We will retail for $499 US and 549 Canadian dollars. And the 60 gigabyte PlayStation 3 for $599 US, $659 Canadian.
The console took nearly 3 years and a price cut to fully recover. From the good and the bad, we move on to the just plain weird with Konami's press conference in 2010. It's hard to go into detail here because to this day I'm still not sure exactly what was going on, but you should definitely go and watch this.
We will dance with absolutely no contours. No longer tied down. Now you can move your body freely.
Extreme. Hack slash battle. Not funny.
How are you doing, Naoki?
Oh, very, very excited.
Come on, Scott, a little bit more to go.
Very, very excited.
It's just plain weird.
Hey, gentlemen, hey, gentlemen. Save it for the ring. Save it for the ring.
And of course, I couldn't talk about memorable E3 moments without mentioning the events of last year. Microsoft were going into E3 as public enemy number one for consumers, after they introduced new policies for its new consoles that included it always needing to be online, large amounts of DRM that prevented you from trading a game or lending it to a friend, and then during the conference they focused mainly on apps and services instead of games, which is what people actually wanted.
Fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
The $499 price tag was just another blow. No one knew if Sony were going to introduce the same sort of policies and price tag. A couple of hours later, SCEA President Jack Tretton gave their answer.
PlayStation 4 won't impose any new restrictions on the use of PS4 gamers. When a gamer buys a PS4 disc, they have the rights to use that copy of the game. They can trade in the game at retail, sell it to another person, lend it to a friend, or keep it forever. In addition, PlayStation 4 disc-based games don't need to be connected online to play.
And with a price tag of $399, Sony were back on top. So what is E3 like in 2014 compared to recent years? These days the majority of the coverage is done by different video game websites. Nintendo are no longer holding a live conference, are instead holding what's called a special event that will be streamed on their website. Microsoft have done a complete U-turn on many of their policies coming out of their ill-received conference from last year. Sony are currently in the lead after their fantastic performance last year and having a great PlayStation 4 launch. Now they need to keep the lead. Unfortunately, they no longer have the fantastic Jack Tretton to host their show, and Don Matrick has also left Microsoft, which will make the host lineup a bit more interesting this year. Just look at that Tretton face. How could you not miss that face? Ubisoft, yes Ubisoft, not Ubisoft, EA and other publishers will also be holding their respective press conferences or just releasing trailers online. The big request from fans and the gaming media going into this year is games, games and more games. Everyone's getting a bit sick of having a conference full of apps and services that they really aren't interested in anymore. Sony, Microsoft and Nintendo all have their newly released consoles for sale, so now they need to give consumers more reason to buy them, hence more games. Games sell consoles. If you are looking for the best round-the-clock E3 coverage this year, I would still have to go with game trailers, partly for the list of panellists they have lined up, including the previously mentioned Jack Tretton and the always interesting Adam Sessler, to name but two. Alongside that, they constantly have a stream of new trailers, interviews and gameplay to show. If you want more actual talk and discussion about what is announced and revealed at E3, you should go check out the guys at GiantBomb.com, who also put together an interesting behind the scenes look at E3's conference day last year. I'll put the link in the description. So, that is what you need to know about E3. Almost every conference is available on the respective companies' websites. If you are like me and you live in the UK or Ireland, here are your conference start times for the big five. If you live in the US or the colonies or wherever, here are your times. And if you live down under or in Middle Earth, here are your times. And I thought I had it bad. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to hit the subscribe button, as I plan to do a couple more on specific video games, maybe some movies too, who knows. I will take your suggestions, so if you'd like to see any kind of video like this for any movie or any game series or game, let me know in the comment section. If gameplay is more your thing, I get together with my good friend Dave now and then and we play games while having a swig of beer for the working man. Thanks for watching.